Hello, this is Anna of Mochi Mochi Land. This is not Anna, I'm Anna. I'm here today to show you how to do these little I-cord legs, which I use on so many creatures, as seen on Happy Little Gnomes, this fierce cave girl, naked Santas, and these lumberjacks who are still in love after all these years. I use this technique for basically any little guys that have two legs. It's pretty simple, but not so simple maybe to understand just through writing, so that's why I'm making this tutorial. Shout out to Kim, who suggested it, requested it. I hope this is helpful, Kim. I'm going to use worsted weight yarn and size 5 double pointed needles today. For all these guys, I use fingering weight yarn and size 1 needles, but this is just for showing it clearly in a bigger scale. But actually, worsted weight, size 5, you'll get a really cute little fun size toy. So I'm going to show two different ways to do this. They're both basic. The difference is the first one's a little bit simpler. It will make your seam, the beginning of your rounds, at the back between the two legs. The second technique will make a seam that's at the side of one leg. I use them interchangeably in a lot of my projects, but if I'm using color work or some specific shaping where increases and decreases need to be in particular places, then it's important to use the one as written. But I'll show the simpler one first, which I use on more of my recent projects. First, you're going to cast on the number of stitches in your I-cord, which usually in my projects is 4 stitches. So leave a little tail. I'm going to do a long tail cast on here, which I do using my thumb. Okay, 4 stitches. You're going to net however many rows of I-cord, which often in my projects is 2 rows. So I'm going to not turn the needle. I'm going to slide the stitches to the right end. And with a second double pointed needle, knit the first stitch using the yarn attached to the left here. That's 4 stitches. Okay, I'm just going to do one more row of I-cords, slide them down, knit 4 stitches again. 2 little rows of I-cord is all you need to make a adorable little leg. This first leg, I'm going to cut the yarn. I'm going to leave a tail about the same length as my original tail, a few inches. I'm going to set it aside on the needle. Now I'm going to make another leg in the same way as that first one, except without cutting the yarn at the end. Four stitches. Slide them to the right. Working yarn's attached to the left. Slide them down again. So this is my second row of I-cord. Now I have another little leg. I have 2 little I-cord legs. So the first way I'm showing the I-cord that has the seam in the back, I'm going to hold the 2 legs together. See how they both, they're I-cords, so they're sort of tubes, but you can see the purl stitches on one side. I'm going to put the purl stitches together and hold the needles parallel. The working yarn, I'm going to put this over here, is now attached to the left, sorry, that's the right. It's attached to the right stitch on the back needle, right? And I'm just going to knit the stitches on the front needle here, starting on the right, using this yarn. So the legs right now are not connected, and by doing this, I'm gonna join them. Just kind of holding the needles together. It's a little awkward, but it gets easier as you go. So I'm knitting this first stitch, trying to pull the yarn sort of tight. Don't go crazy though. Slide it off. I'm just kind of holding this back needle here with the stitches midway so they don't slip off. All right, now I'm going to slide these down so they don't slip off. I've just finished knitting the first needle. Now I'm just going to turn the whole thing around, holding the needles together still. So now the legs are attached in one place right there, see? Now I'm going to attach them at another point so they'll be fully connected. Let's slide this needle down a bit, still kind of holding the needles together. And I'm going to knit these 4 stitches in the front, just like I did with the last needle. Sometimes I might have an increase round here instead of just knitting, but it's the same idea. So I've got 8 stitches, 2 legs connected together. They're kind of like, if he's doing the splits, it's like this. And then you just continue. You can continue working on 2 needles with a 3rd DPN to knit with if you want to, or you can redistribute. I think I'll show that in the next I-cord technique that I do. So tempted to set this aside, but I'll need an extra needle. I'm just going to cut this and slip the stitches off. Okay, so the next I-cord will give you a seam. The beginning of the rounds will be at the side. And this next technique is how it's written in the gnome pattern, although you can use that one for the gnome. That one's a little bit simpler. This one, it's the same idea, it's just you're distributing the stitches a little bit differently. So 4 stitches I-cord. I'm gonna knit these 4, 2 rows. Okay, cut the yarn. Now I will make 1 more I-cord. Slide the stitches down. Two rows. So far it's exactly the same. I've got 2 I-cord legs. One has the working yarn attached, one does not. This time, for this technique, I'm going to divide each I-cord, the stitches of each I-cord, onto 2 needles. So I'm going to slip 2 stitches, well, I'll go this way, slip 2 stitches purlwise onto another needle. So now I've got 2 and 2 for this leg. I'm gonna turn the needles this way so that the purl stitches are on the inside. So this is all knit stitches on the outside here. I'll put that down here. And then I will do the same. I dropped a needle, so here's another one. Do the same thing on this leg. So slipping 2 stitches purlwise onto another double pointed needle. It's on 2 needles now, and just turn them like that so the purl stitches are inside, and slide it down to the middle so they won't slip off. Now I've got these 2 legs, each on 2 needles. Now to orient them, we want the working yarn attached to the right stitch on the back needle, just like before. I like to put the tail of this one, the cut tail, attached also to the right on the back of this needle. Next thing we do is, oops. So we've got 2 needles in back and 2 needles in front. We're going to place the 2 sets of front stitches onto one double pointed needle and the 2 sets of stitches that are in the back also onto one. So I will just carefully pick these all up together. This is a little tricky, just try not to get discombobulated. Just focus on which needle is which. These 2 are going to go into this needle in the front, slipping them purlwise and quickly sliding them to the middle so they don't slip off. And now it's a little hard to see perhaps, but I've got these 2 back needles. I'm going to do the same thing, slip these stitches purlwise onto from the left to the right. So now I still have 2 separate legs. They're not joined, but they're together on the needles. And this is going to make the seam here, or the beginning of the rounds on this side. So you can very clearly see the 2 legs. And the rest is the same. Knit the front, turn around, knit the back. So my working yarn's still attached to the right and the back. Knitting the first stitch here, using it. After the second stitch, this is going to join the front of the legs together. Like before. Turn them both around. The working yarn's attached to the right at the back. And knit the front needle. And now we have 2 joined legs. They're thoroughly joined, and the beginning of the round is at the side of the body. I'll just continue a little bit to show how one might continue. Let's do an increase stitch. Let's do knit front back in each stitch. So right now there are 8 stitches. Let's make it 16. Knit front back in every stitch. So again, working yarn's attached to the back. I'm going to increase around and then I'll distribute onto 3 needles just to show how I do that. You can also distribute as you go, pick up another needle and start knitting with that one. That's a knit front back, it's a basic stitch. Now I've got 8 on the front and I will turn and do knit front back again here. As I said before, I think you can keep working the whole project on 2 needles, knitting with a third if you want to. I think for most of my projects I get to a number of stitches where it's more comfortable to have the stitches on 3 double pointed needles, so I'll just do that real quick. I'm just going to take some from the front and some from the back and put them on a 3rd needle. Slipping them purlwise. I kind of don't pay much attention to the stitch count for each needle because right now I have a multiple of 8, right? We started with 4 and 4 and then it was 8, now it's 16, and 8 does not divide evenly onto 3 needles, so I'm just kind of like whatever. I'll put fewer stitches on the last needle a lot of times, so that's how I keep track of the beginning of the round instead of using stitch markers. I don't really like stitch markers on such a small project. But I've got some here, and some there. And this is now fully distributed, so you can continue to knit using a 4th needle. And you'll start here, whatever the next needle is from your attached yarn, and go around and around, and that's how you knit one of these little guys. That's how you get started, at least, and the rest is easy after this, actually. So I hope this was helpful to Kim and to anyone else who has stayed this long. You can find me at mochimochiland.com and on Instagram as mochimochiworld. And I will see you around. I hope you make lots of friends. Bye.